Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Happiest CEO. I'm so glad to be here today with my guest. And it's not often that you get to sit down with someone who spends almost 20 years behind bars and comes out on the other side completely transformed. This week, I'm here and very privileged to talking to Jeffrey Morgan, an Indigenous Garmy Royman, a seven-figure entrepreneur, maybe eight, who knows, and 2024 Australian Mindset and Life Coach of the Year. And Jeffrey shares his pain to power philosophy and how extreme ownership can break generational cycles. It's very raw, it's very powerful, and it's a kind of conversation you don't forget and you don't want to miss. So this is a real masterclass in resilience, and I'm really honored that you're here. Thank you for coming, Jeffrey.
Thanks for having me, legend, and I appreciate that intro. And mate, there's plenty in here. And for those who might think, I've never been through pain. Sometimes pain is about what we think we want to do, but we never ever take the action of. And as much as my 20 years behind bars might sound crazy, a lot of people live behind the prison of their own eyes, and they're free in this society. Pretty much most of their life, they're dead at 20 and buried at 75. So this conversation's really about unleashing and breaking out free from those bars and being able to share that magic to the world. And if I can do it, we can all do it.
Amazing. Thank you. And you had quite a journey from, I guess, even before you got into prison. And you grew up in Sydney, right?
Yeah, grew up in Sydney, Australia, and two parents who I was blessed to be around for a short period of time. Unfortunately, lost them by the time I was about 22, both of them, to cancer. Wow. And I was in jail when they both passed. I said goodbye over a 6-minute phone call. So, to be able to, there was a lot of pain there in that sense, but I was able to take that pain and turn it into purpose and understand, that where I grew up didn't define me. I grew up in a neighbourhood that was one of Australia's most notorious streets, running riots with police, badge of honour to go to jail, drugs, alcohol, domestic violence, being a normal part of the community. And just to grow up around that environment in the inner city part of Redfern, which is the next suburb out of Sydney itself. We could look down basically from the top of Everleigh Street, see a beautiful view of the city, but unfortunately within that community there wasn't beauty itself in how we were conducting ourselves, coming out a whole bunch of trauma, trying to deal with our emotions, and internet not being around back then. Where we grew up, we just become a byproduct of the environment, unleashing those feelings into behaviours and ending up obviously in jail for 20 years.
When people would, let's say people who might have not quite the environment that you grew up, they would probably judge you in like you making a conscious decision to be like these people or like those people. But I would probably assume the environment you grew up makes it normal to be what everyone else is, right? It's almost not a choice. You just go with the flow of what's expected and what's normal, correct?
So I'll give you context so people really get an understanding. And I'm not justifying bad behavior, just to be clear on this, but it's just the reality of what happens when you grow up. You go to the fridge, there's no food in the fridge. You grow up around drugs, alcohol, as I said, music blaring till early hours of the morning, people smoking drugs in front of you back then more so than, in saying that, there was people that would inject drugs in the laneway and we'd see that around their own kids. Their kids would be playing next to them, broken glass bottles, graffiti everywhere, throwing bricks at police cars, burning the police cars. Imagine being around that. What are you going to? And then at that point in time, Aboriginal people and non-Aboriginal people were at we felt were at war. A lot of racism in Australia at that point in time. And the police were then, there to protect the community, were assaulting the community. And when I say that, I say this respectfully to even the police. I understand it. Imagine getting a brick thrown at your police car every time you drove down. I'd want to grab somebody too next time I get the opportunity and give them a little nudge as well. And I mean that respectfully. I could understand their frustration and anger built up inside. And it's just, that even then, they're meant to be the law, the highest end of what should be respectful. And they'll change and shift their behaviours based on how we behaved. And as I said, I totally understand it. And not knocking the police in any way, shape, or form. I just understand like how people become shaped by their environments. If we're nice to the police, they no doubt pull us over. Hey, can you give us your name, and we'll just do a quick check, and you can be on your way. But imagine you getting caught every name under the sun. We're fighting them. We're burning their cars from. Of course, they're going to shift and change. So if people say, oh, he had a better choice, so did the police, but they acted in a different way, right? As an example, because of the environments that they were thrown into. And I guarantee they didn't go home and conduct that type of behavior with their families. Well, I don't know, but in general, you'd have that expectation where respect was there, where disrespect was from us. So environments shift and change. And I suppose when, I call it the bank robber mask, when CEOs go into a workplace, they're a totally different person to what they are at home. And if they're not, this is something obviously we do as a business. How do you leave work at work? And then when you get to home, make sure that you're present in that space with your kids and family. And same thing. If someone comes from money, more than likely they're going to be of money. If you are around a drug user, more than likely you're going to end up using drugs. So if you go out night clubbing and you're a drinker, but you're around four other people who are taking recreational drugs each day, and it's a free world. And they get to a point where they start to say, they see it, and then one night they go, give me some, I'll try it. And now they're hooked, right? So I'm not saying that it's the right thing. I'm just saying that when we understand people become a byproduct of the environment, and our way of making money was hustling, and that was my education around how you make money. Well, of course, once you make money and you're a young kid, you're impressionable, it just becomes a part of your DNA, and we just didn't know any better. What I ended up learning over time when I got to jail was I started to ask these questions when I matured enough and said, wait, how do other people drive Ferraris, Lamborghinis, live a good life, or whatever it is?
Yeah.
Then they're not throwing bricks at police cars. So what are they doing? And then you've got to be a champion of being a beginner. All right, I've got to write a whole new story now. I don't know this way. Let's start to read books. Let's start to surround ourselves with people. So even in jail, I'd surround myself with white collar criminals, and I'd ask questions. How do you minimize your tax? How do you make money? What do you, these things, ROI, what's that? So I had no idea about that. Then I started to educate myself, and obviously I started to rewire how I fired. And basically for me, eventually I was able to shift and change who I was to who I became. And I just say to people, really seek to understand in any conversation of the world. And the greatest way to do it, if you draw a circle, the circle is always you. And the circle could be whatever environment. This podcast today, we're in this circle. It might be your family home, your business place, your teammates in a sporting team, relationships, family, friends, etc. Do what is right for the best interest and outcome of the environment, not who is right, which means if we're like judgmental and we're like high and mighty, we're so right and we're doing the right thing, seek to understand and then pass on that knowledge to those that don't understand. And if you say, hey, Sebastian, you shouldn't commit crime, you shouldn't take drugs, you shouldn't, what do most people do? They'll cross their hands and they'll say, all right, bro, yeah, no problems. Take it easy and you have your opinion. I'm going to do me. And their pride and ego gets in the way. But if you can really shift and seek to understand and have a conversation with somebody and say, how's life? And they're saying, oh, I'm out every weekend and we're partying, and they're taking drugs. If I say stop taking drugs, Sebastian, you'd be like, oh, or whatever, mate. I wish you all the best. You might be respectful, in the conversation, but if I put it in a way as to, sounds like you're having a great time in life. What do you want out of life? And you might sit there and go, it's a great question. I've never thought about that. And it's usually because now something happened to you, and now you're trying to deal with it through the nightclub scene, taking drugs, numbing your emotions, dancing all night. How good's this night? It's beautiful, and this is what life's about, until you actually find yourself. So I call them roundabout questions, but ultimately make sure that we put more unity and community, I always say, Sebastian, and that means the community is the whole world. How do we lead by example and saying we're all equal? And if someone doesn't know something, don't judge them, actually step into that conversation and help them see things that they've never seen so they can be who they truly want to be. And most people want a good life, but they seek out what they best understand. Drugs will help me deal with this and numb this emotion rather than unpacking that invisible backpack. Here's the things that I need to deal with. And starting to, if you're the psychologist, the mental health expert, the effective communication person, the relationships person, etc., let's pass that knowledge on so the world ends up a better place.
Thanks for that. I relate to that a lot. I come out of a small workers' town, and even though I never got into any serious crime, it was certainly something that was sort of like permitted to be certainly naughty, and and drugs certainly was always a temptation, or was at least like an option that was out there. I just seem to have had really, really strong talking at me when I was really young, so I would never go into sort of like hard drugs, but I certainly was a couple of times at that crossroad where it's like I could go down that route, and that is easy money to make, by doing something illegal and so on, and it fascinates me. I sometimes look back at my own journey. It's like when was the point where I really really changed, and also let alone for me a major one was just actually the whole money game. Money is evil. Money makes you a bad person. Which is also a justification of like, I stay here and, and do my thing that has nothing to do with having a thriving life, having opportunities. And so.
Love that.
Right. And for me, it was a step by step, and I had a real yearning to get out of this environment. And so I looked at really like the mindset that I had back then, which is like, I have to become a cook or a chef so I can travel, or I have to become a carpenter. In Germany, it means you go on a waltz, meaning like you actually have to travel for 3 years, can't get back to your hometown for 3 years. Quite fascinating. But anyway, the environment that you describe is even more extreme. And it escalated for you before you actually sort of like turned around. Do you mind talking a little bit about that? Because to me, what I would love to unpack otherwise is like, do we have to get to such an extreme wake up that you got into? And by the sounds, it was more the phone call to your dying parents than really, I'm in jail because I did wrong, and therefore now I have to better myself. That wasn't the driver. It was more the conversation with your parents. Would you mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, like I think you speak about it, and sometimes people might think they need my extreme to have an awakening, if that's the term.
Yeah.
And I think we just don't, in a society that doesn't have time. I'm too busy. Going back to your conversation about you could have taken drugs, the effort justification on why, on each side, this dissonance that we have about, justification around the effort towards working for 3 years as a carpenter around here versus I can sell some drugs and make that money in 1 month that you'd make in the next 3 years. I had for me, one of the things I realized when I was a kid, I loved training. And a lot of friends got on steroids. They came out. Arnie was out at the time, and everyone would blow up really quickly. And in 3 months they'd get the results I'd get in 3 years, and they'd be tanked and shredded. And young kid impression. Well, I wanted that too, but I stuck to it. I just stuck it out, and the only thing I took was creatine at that time, and I still take it to this day. Great product combined with the saunas that you do, and 2 little pillars that start to build some great wealth into yourself. But it was these justifications that I had about making money. This is the only way I know how to make money. And I think what you look back on those moments, I started to look at, is this what you want? Do you want to die in jail like you pretty much did when your parents died and you said goodbye over a 6-minute call? My kids coming to visits at that time, is it okay to lead by example and show your kids that you're in jail? Although I did say when they were younger that I was in the army because we're in green in Australia. And like these things, and then they got carried. One of my kids, I know, it was crazy.
Sorry, took a moment to understand what you were saying there. I thought, oh, he was in the army. So no, the kids thought he was in the army.
Yeah, and like until they obviously see these podcasts, when they were in their teens, they were like, "Dad, what part of the army were you in?" And like, you created a lie upon a lie upon a lie upon, and I was lying to my own kids, and I own that. I'm not proud of that, but I justified it with the fact that, I don't want them to know that I was in jail and I'm going to be in the army. Now I was in the SAS, and like, it was just one lie upon another. Like, oh yeah, I was in the commando part or whatever it was, and whatever came to my mind at that time. Even that, you look at that behavior. Why is it okay to even just come out like that and lie to your kid's face? So I started to really challenge all these things, and it really made me feel that I didn't even know who I was. I said I was Jeffrey Morgan, but is this the Jeffrey Morgan you want in your life? And I had to really change my whole identity. In 1991, I moved out of that community. That was very insular. It was war. We went to war with the police, society. If you weren't with us, you were against us.
Yeah.
And it was just, to me, I started to have these. Once I got out of the community, I could sit down and I had that time. And I'd suggest this to everybody: really set time in your weekly planner and grab your phone, put it in an hour here of self development, personal development. Listen to podcasts, read books, TEDx talks, whatever it is that you're getting into, to surround yourself with people of that nature, which is what I did. I had to go to these business conventions, conferences, and talk to people. And they'd say, oh, do you have an elevator pitch? And I'm like, what the is that? What elevator? Where are we going? Like, no idea. And
Yeah.
it's very uncomfortable. It felt this big when they'd ask you stuff like literally, and I'd be like, I don't know what they're talking about. And
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
say, oh, no, I haven't built mine yet. And then I started to realize these things, the pain points that I had in my life, until we confront them. And most people won't confront them because it's painful. Like, do you want to admit that you don't know what an elevator pitch is? Do you want to admit that you're in business, but you don't have an understanding of X, Y, and Z? And in front of everybody, maybe I stand up in front of Tony Robbins and I say, oh yeah, I got a business. He goes, what do you do? And I'm like, oh well, I like, very very confronting. But I did it all, and I did it in front of everybody. And I I know that when you do that in this world, you will win every single day of the week, because you are saying, I'm not who I want to be. Here's who I want to be. Sebastian has that answer around why saunas are beneficial. Tony Robbins has the business and personal development side. Mel Robbins has how to act quickly. Whatever it is, I started to really let go of control to gain control, and I let go of my pride and ego. I wrote out who I was as Jeffrey Morgan at that point in time, and who I didn't want to be as Jeffrey Morgan. I didn't want to be a criminal. I didn't want to lie to my kids. I didn't want to all these things. And then I said, all right, what's it look like in the future? And here's what I wrote out, and I manifested and vision board and you name it. I did it all. And I watched the same video for 6 years to embed that. How bad do you want it? It's called on social media. Watch it. There's a message in it, one message. I'm not going to tell you what the message is. Have a watch that. It's called How Bad Do You Want It? It's a bloke doing push-ups on a green artificial turf. It's the voice in the background, E.T.'s voice, Eric, the hip-hop preacher. And it just was embedded in my DNA. The pain from my past became the purpose of my future. Do you want to see your kids on a visit? They carried my son off the visit crying. To be honest, I wanted to obviously probably worse words than what I'm about to use, assault the prison officers because they were touching my kid. But it was a real realization. I stood there and I said, F these people. And then I started to say, F yourself. You put your kid here in this spot, and it was you. And I had this realization, shit, the common denominator amongst all of this is you, not somebody else, mate. It's not the prison officer's fault. It's you. And then I started to deep dive and shift and change. And I can tell you, all the pain that I saw is happening to me, I shifted to happening for me. And I asked, what is this teaching me? And then that's the first process. Then what I call a learn, grow, prosper analogy, the steps to success. What did you learn from it? How did you grow from it? How did you prosper? And sometimes prospering is the peace in your head, not just financially. A lot of people think one word relates to one thing. Learn that there's many words, multi-dimensional ways of looking at life. And then I went into what I call a negative and positive fear loop, where that fear is feeling, emotion, action, reaction, how I viewed what happened to me, and then how I shifted to happening for me. And there's a whole process to this, and I'm not going to go take a whole podcast, but in general, um, I just learned that the pain that I had was what I accepted and not designed in life. I just accepted from the community as a byproduct of life. And then when I designed it, I started to say, what do you want? I want to be able to do what I want, when I want, with who I want, as much as I want. Not when I'm 70 and I'm retired. I don't want to sit in an office, and therefore I'm going to determine my own life. And off I went and build out what I've built and continue to build. And if I can, as I said before, you can too.
Yeah, man. And I don't have 6 years worth of listening to one particular thing, although I have audiobooks normally that I go back to. But I remember listening to the Millionaire Mastermind, our Millionaire Mindset by Harvey Wecker, and I listened to it every month, again and again. And I could see sort of in the beginning, I was like, I knew this was the way. Like, or for me, that next step, it was the next step to sort of embrace the concepts in the book. But it took listening to it again and say like, oh man, I don't know if I agree yet with it. And then you listen again, and then you realize, no, there's something in it, and there's a lot of inner work. At the end of the day, the agreement, in a sense, that you wrote down is something that I'm really familiar with, and I'm often surprised that that's not taught at school. Maybe that's not a surprise, because that's a really specific way of living your life, really intentional. But it works so well, right? Like, it's the same actually with your partner. If you know who you're looking for and what would light you up, or how you would love them to interact with your family, with your existing kids, whatever it is, if you're clear with that, you have criteria and you can work on it, you can think about it. And it's really heartwarming. I got goosebumps when you were talking about making this decision, because to me,
love it.
That's where it starts, right? It's magic.
I just, two things really quickly. Sometimes we'll listen to a podcast, read a book, and it doesn't land. It's like, oh, I can't. He's talking a millionaire. I'm not a millionaire. Money's not everything. These rich people. I was all of that too, just like yourself. And now that I've got money, it's like, I used to say rich people were wankers when we were kids. These rich people, they're wankers. Yeah. And I mean this respectfully. We stole Porsches, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, like that sort of thing. It was, and then went and did these ram raids when we were young. And I'd say, stuff them, they got money, we don't care. And now I'm that person. I'm like, are they still wankers? And I asked myself the question the other day, literally, and I was like, it's really funny, because we're wired a particular way that then creates lack, not abundance. And when we understand these words create spells, or spelling of the words create the spells that then keep us stuck in a space or place. And for me, I have to constantly, like, just so everyone's aware. And you did say, yeah, he's transformed. I'll never stop transforming until my last breath, just to be clear for everybody. And I'd say that, being an expert in this field, make sure that you understand you can never stop evolving. And these books that you read or listen to, podcasts, don't be afraid to go back, just like Sebastian has. And I've done it plenty of times and read that same book again, or Akagi or something of that nature. And when I've read it at this point in my life, I saw it this way. Then I see the evolution. I'm 10 steps ahead. Yes. Now I see it, this enlightenment. It's like the gates of heaven opened up and I walk through, and it's just magic, right? And it's just because sometimes we don't understand that conversation, even on a business level, very important. When we go into business, a lot of people won't understand, you could be talking about ROI or ROAS or whatever it is, right? Your EBITDA, and people are like, EBITDA, what's EBITDA? Like, and whereas, 10 years later, once I've learned business, I'm like, what's your EBITDA? Where's your numbers? Show me your numbers, and I'll tell you what we can improve on and how we could do that. Or look at that. Why do you feel that's okay? We won't understand that conversation until you're in it. And you've talked about relationships, the relationship with ourselves. When we're at the highest level of emotional intelligence and we're constantly personally developing, even you become a reflection of who you bring into your world. Like I said before, when I was a bank robber, I brought in bank robbers. When I was a business owner, and a serious one, I brought in some serious people, not only in this country, but globally, that are in my mobile phone list, right? That would never have had, if I said, can I get your number, back in the day as a bank robber, they'd be like, if I see you again, stay low, and I wish you all the best, right? But going back to that relationship, it's such a great example because we're attracted to somebody on what basis first? Oh, I like the look of Sebastian or Mary Poppins over here. And now, if we conversate well and we get good at it and we see tricksters do this or fraudsters or
Yeah.
manipulators or whatever you want to call them, right? People that are really good at it. Some aren't even, some will be honest about it. Like, hey, I'm here for the fun, and they get out at a nightclub. They both have their fun and it's magic, fireworks are going off in the background. I can't, believe how much we've connected. And now someone falls pregnant. And what we find, I just had a friend talking to me the other day, the person's not the person they thought they were because they were attracted on that visual level. But now you exercise, I don't exercise. You smoke, I don't smoke. You
Yeah.
want to club every weekend, I want to go hiking, and now they've got a big problem, and now they've got a kid in the middle of that problem, and this is where. That tells me why society is not intentional, most of society, because we
Yes.
act on that space. And if you do that, you're going to hurt yourself because now you've got a co-parent, separate locations. Someone cheats on you, he or she's no good, and now you, instead of being effective communicators because you've done that work, setting a great example for the kid. The only thing your pride and ego gets in the way stuff is Sebastian, he's a cheater, or
Yeah.
Joe Blogs. I want nothing to do. He's not seeing his kid, and now you've got this friction, and that goes out into the family, and it's energy that the world doesn't need. Be very intentional about who you are, and a reflection of who you are will come into your life. So if you're a drug user, you're going out every weekend, guess who you're going to meet? And if you think that person's going to have values, morals, or dealt with their past, more
Yeah.
than likely they haven't, then they fall pregnant, and you think it's going to be great because the ecstasy moment out in the nightclub is replicated in the moment in the bedroom, but then it isn't replicated into life because they're not skilled with life. They haven't done the work for life, and I guarantee the life you live at that point in time is going to be one of recovery rather than one of actually, a nature of that you see at the highest level of happiness. And the happiest CEO, you ain't going to be you got to be the happiest CEO, just so we're clear on that term, in your life. And what's that look like? The happiest CEO of life.
Yeah.
And if we were to define, go and write that, like, all right, happiest CEO. If I thought of it, it would be this, that, the other.
Yeah.
And people that you see that are successful, financially, spiritually, culturally, emotionally, relationship wise, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Your thoughts, actions, behaviors, beliefs, and then become all of that. I guarantee you'll meet somebody of the highest degree who values themselves. You'll both love hiking. You'll both love training, or whatever it is that you all like. You'll
That's
match
right.
up really quickly and easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't do it.
But when I sort of reflect how I live my life and how I live my life with my wife, we would have once to twice a year, actually normally twice a year, we look at all the intentions we have, and there are lots. Like I used to have actually a book that I read every day. I remember that's some years ago now. But what we do nowadays is that we really go through what do we wish for us individually. So that might be health. That might be I want to learn this skill. My wife is a performer, musical performer.
Wow.
So she might say, I want to learn this style of singing the next half a year or the next year, or I want to look for a property that has X, Y, and Z that we would like to live in, and so on. And then we go through every child and say we wish for them this, and let's manifest this, let's manifest at least one-on-one. So we have 5 kids. So, like having one-on-ones with each kid and each parent for us is really important to really get to know them individually as well as a group. And so we put all of that down. It takes a while. We normally take a day or two, in between tasks or even sitting down. Actually, not true. We normally go out for 3 or 4 hours into a restaurant and just write it all down and then, do a ceremony a little bit later. My question
Magic.
around this, what's it?
Magic.
It's easy enough to do, but also you have clarity of what you actually want. If you don't, like it's this whole example, I'm sure you've heard it, like you go into a restaurant and the waiter comes And instead of saying what you actually want, is whatever, just give me something, Of course, I put down then that is fun, but overall, you have an intent of like, I really, really would like a pizza, I really want a steak, whatever it might be.
100%. It's a great example.
Thank you. The thing that I have never understood, and I wonder whether you have a view of it. In your story, there was a particular moment that triggered you to change, but was that always your destiny anyway? And so for me, having not an extreme example of the shift, I used to be part of a small town, whatever, and was doing what everyone else was doing. It wasn't necessarily criminal, but it was a particular style of life that was not really fulfilling, definitely not intentional.
Yeah.
What's the spark that switches us on? You, Jeffrey, I was just saying, now I talk to the white collar people. I want to learn what they learned. Like, where does this come from? And I guess the follow-up question would be, how can we instill this in our children and friends and family that look for this?
Love that. You mentioned a whole bunch of things. Firstly, the word dissonance, look up the types of dissonance.
Yeah.
This is for everybody, because what will happen is when you're built of value from people of value, which means your parents, your grandparents, the community you're within, teachers, consultants, guides, they've built you, right? Oh, I see Sebastian, he's a great, and you teach me something. Now, if someone else goes against that in any way, shape or form, but it could actually add value, and I call it stacking on top of value, right? Until you get to the penthouse. That's how I sort of look at it. And people in general will brush that off. Listen, he's going against Sebastian, and Sebastian is, my uncle, my father, my parent, whatever it is, right? And you're there. You've got to let go of that and say, how can I extract the information from this person to better my life? And I call it cutting the bullshit, because life's good. I've got a roof over my head. I've got food on my table. These rich people are wankers. I don't need that money. But then the summer comes for somewhere, say, where you're traveling, you want to travel to another country, but you can't afford it.
Yeah.
And your kids, you got 5 kids, and they go, Dad, can we go to Disneyland? And you go, you'll be me. We've got some things to do, but we might do it sometime soon. Knowing for the last 5 years, you've thought about it, but there's no way of getting there based on your current salary, which means you're of lack mindset, which means you say, based on my current salary, I can't get there.
Yeah.
Could you learn a new skill? Like maybe it's an entertainer, maybe it's e-commerce, maybe whatever it is. You learn this new skill that now provides you more money, and your wife does it too. And now you've got an extra $1,000, $800, $8,000. We don't know until you take that path. Yeah. But that's where people stay stuck. And I had to say to myself, you're full of shit about you. I told people, Sebastian, I could do jail standing on my head, and I could go back there now, and I'll get in a routine. I'll see all the boys that I grew up with, and you just get into, do I want to be in jail? Here, all right, here, Jeff, here's the key to the jail, right? Do you want to leave now? Oh, yeah, give it to me. No, mate, you told me you could do it standing on your head. Good luck with that. So I was full of shit to what I fed myself, and this is important for everybody. The narrative that you feed yourself, I'm going to provide for my family. And it's very noble to go and work hard, but there's so many ways now that you could do that online that would bring you 10x, 100x, 1000x, million X on what you're currently doing in your expertise of your field. And you work less hours, see your kids grow up, maybe put your kids in homeschooling. But as soon as you say that, people are like, oh my God, you're going to take your kids out of school. You're crazy. You're the crazy one. We've got to understand we act in a way that is from 1920s without the internet, without AI, without whatever it is, the potential to grow your business like this time. People are growing brands, Sebastian, like Kim Kardashian as an example. You don't have to be Nike to grow your brand. You just have to have a brand and a voice and something that people relate to and want to be. And that could be your job. Like there's people that go on TikTok. I've got a mate in Australia that made 150K in 1 week, but they do these battles. Like it's not my cup of tea, but maybe that is what you do as an entertainer.
Yeah.
Like I watch him for psychology purposes, and I watch Let's Go Team, and it's about, they get this battle going. We're not going to lose to Sebastian's team.
Yeah.
And they build this team, and this team drops their hard-earned money on this person. Find a way to change your narrative. And if that is you, you're a TikToker, go hard. There's people that do OnlyFans. I'm not here to judge you on your choices. I always say what my grandmother taught me. That circle would take you back to the relationship with yourself, or me and you, Christian. Respect us, Christian, Sebastian. Love, kindness, empathy, and respect. If you put those four things in that circle towards any human being, you'll always understand beings at the highest level. And someone's chosen to be a porn star as an example. Why? What happened in the background? I can guarantee that something's happened in the background where they now want to be the center of attention, highlighted, felt that way, or dealt that way. And once we understand that, we say, all right, what's our narrative been? I'm Jeffrey Morgan from Redfern. I don't care about the police, jail. I can do standing on my head. I'll tell my kids a lie. And I fed my narrative that was okay. And I was a strong man. You mess with me, I'll show you who's boss. But is that really a strong man? Like, that to me was the weakest version of a man. And I had to front that on myself. You've got to front that on yourselves around cutting the bullshit. What I feed myself, life's okay. You know you've got more, and I want everybody on here to pursue that at the highest level. You got a book, you got a song you want to release, you got a business you want to start, you want to travel to a location, ask someone on a date, go out and do it every single day, and do not apologize to anybody for the life that you choose. Live that at its highest degree. You deserve that every single day, so that the rest of your life is the best of your life. You deserve that.
I love that. I really do. It's super inspiring, and I think that's a way of living, and that's living your fullest life, right? And everyone sort of dreams about that. Not many. Well, maybe those dreams stop at one stage too, but it's taking action.
And
Is
just
really
know that whether you're a mum, you're like 60, we've seen a lot of the people that I read something the other day. Coca-Cola sold 25 cans in their first year. So people think when they start a business, they launch 25 cans in a year. You've got to be committed to the journey of whatever you choose to go in on. And it's crazy. We are so committed to the wrong things, right? I work for Sebastian. I run to work and make sure I'm not late. But in your own life, when it's time to show up and build a quality of life, jump in the sauna every single day for 10 minutes. 10 minutes a day can improve the length of your life. That's it. Not even the research that I read was even less time, right? But we then say, I don't have time. But now I've got to get to Sebastian, who's my boss, wants me there from 9 to 5. I'm running to make sure I'm not late. And then I get there, and guess what I do? Work my ass off for somebody else's life, and don't take it the wrong way for anyone working. It's very noble and respectful. But we have this dissonance of, oh, this is how we make money. You could make money other ways, but it's the fear of not knowing how to. So you got to be that champion of being a beginner. The fear of judgment from your friends. You got to then dump them friends. Not dump them friends, edit and delete the relationship. You grew up with them, all right, hey, Sebastian, how are you, my brother? I hope you're well. How's the kids? This, that, and the other. But you just got to understand they want one thing in life, you're wanting another. The two paths don't match, but what we try and do is keep Sebastian there, which then makes us a crab in the bucket, or him a crab in the bucket towards the goals, dreams, aspirations. Then you've got to be committed to that journey, and commitment means that you've got to follow through and finish things. People start something, Sebastian, even on ChatGPT, and they'll get all this thing that gets spat out on ChatGPT, and they'll action one of those 30 things. My advice to yourself is action every one of those 30 things. And at the bottom of ChatGPT, it says, do you want a 90-day roadmap, or X, Y, and Z, 4 things? Yeah. We haven't even finished the first 30 things. And then we go, give us all 4 of those. It spits out another 100 things, and now it's overwhelming. So that probably be the 4th tip. Make sure that you don't overwhelm yourself, and I call it the one thing strategy. And that means I just focus on one thing. I have a list I brain dump into every single night. So before bed, instead of having my head filled with, what I need to do tomorrow, that's a good thought. What about this business idea? Coming left, right, and center, focus on one thing and then give that everything, write that out the night before, and then I come in, priority 1, priority 2, priority 3. And if I don't get to priority 5, I move these into the next day and understand as long as you continuously move forward towards the life you want, I call it the invincible mindset. People say that's bullshit. There's no such thing. You're still here. You're still alive. So you are being invincible. You're still here, right? And then you just continuously roll on. And you've got to really frame everything at its highest degree. You want to be Superwoman or Superman of your life. You can't act like, the bad guy within your life and destroy your life. You are the controller, the painter, the director, whatever it is of your own life. And as long as you blame somebody else, you're always looking at that external, lastly, as the guider. Oh, Sebastian better motivate me today. If not, I'm going to lay in my bed. It's not up to Sebastian to motivate us. It's up to us to motivate ourselves. And the best way to do that is plug in education that is an inspiration, which then becomes a part of your DNA, your responsibility, ownership, and accountability. And that creates discipline. So that discipline, non-negotiables and accountables in your life becomes your DNA. And ultimately you become the greatest version of yourself, what you just spoke about. And it's not just words, it's actions, thoughts, behaviors, beliefs. Those 4 things that ultimately build you into that version of your DNA that others look to create the strength within their own life and become that warrior that walks out into the Colosseum tomorrow morning. And Sebastian goes, have you seen that warrior out there? And I'm like, yeah. And have you heard he hasn't lost for 10 years? I go, guess what? Today he gets his head chopped off because I'm walking out there. And the line that comes after him, I'm going to grab his eyes and rip him out. And that mentality creates a better reality within your life. Most people don't want to do that because, let's look at the flowers and be distracted by Sebastian's great life. It's your life. Go out and be that warrior to it because you can. And if I can, you can. I'm going to continue to say it throughout. Go out and practice that every single day until you become who you are and who you should be because you deserve that.
I love that. I really do. And I know you are doing, really high-end sort of one-on-ones, but you also have an online course coming that sort of focuses on that. Would you say that everyone has the potential when working with you, when reading your book, watching podcasts that you're on, does everyone have the potential to sort of follow your process and shift to what they really want to become? Or what's, I guess a better question might be, what's the mindset that someone has to get into to be ready for a journey with you?
Love that. I'd say go back to that word dissonance, and you've got to rewrite so these 5 things: rewrite, reframe, redesign, reset, and rewire. So those 5 things, always trying to remember those 5 myself. Right? They're part of my DNA, but far out. And I've read them out in workshops and made okay. Every time you hear like, which one did I say? Which one didn't I say? But those 5 things, you got to rewrite your whole story. So even how you speak, Sebastian, hopefully we'll get this contract. Not hopefully, we're getting it, like slamming the table and saying we're getting this contract. And we can say we can get this contract, but if I haven't done due diligence, or we say we're business partners, hadn't built a solid framework around how we'd service that client, client, and I say, hey, Sebastian, you're the client now. And I go, hey, Sebastian, just give us that $100,000. Trust me, bro. Like how we operate and how we expect to have these expectations that just will never be serviced and met because I call them daily deposits. What are your daily deposits? Are you reading that T. Harvey Eker book? Are you reading watching like every single day I watch 1 7-minute TEDx talk, and it could be someone who's talked about saunas. That's where I learnt it was a 40-year study on saunas. I don't know if you've seen that. And it basically teaches. I was like, I need to do saunas like straight away. Like it's like I mean it nice. You're an idiot, Jeff. If you got this information, you don't implement it. But what we've got to challenge is that ego, that pride, like, listen, Christian, don't tell me I need saunas, mate. Like, I know what I need, and you're not it. I'm not the expert. You are in that field, and I've read a lot about saunas, but you're selling them. You know, what heat level should I have it for, what purposes, etc. I don't know that, right? So I got to just zip my mouth if I'm with Sebastian. He's selling me one of these
Yeah.
infrared saunas, and I'm saying, "Oh, what would be the benefits of them?" And then I go, "I don't need that. Like, I'm healthy anyway, brother. Like, don't need your thing." I'm going to share with you a really quick example.
Yeah.
1%ers, right? People think they're nothing, but if you plug in the sauna for yourself and you get one of these saunas, you put it in your house, you do that every single day, you extend the years of your life. That 1%, we've got the latest Lamborghini. It's beautiful, whatever car you love as a person or individual, right? And you're looking at this car, you go, how beautiful it is. If I take one thing out of it, the nuts and bolts of that car, it falls apart. So when you understand that conversation, it's not the shiniest part, the engine, the exterior, the interior smell, the sound of the engine. Oh, beautiful. It's the 1%ers, the nuts and bolts of you on a personal business development level, backed by an invincible mindset that creates the life you truly want. You've got to really let go of control. And two things, pride, ego, get in the way of how you're built of value. So here in Australia, just recently, Australia Day and for Aboriginal people, it's Invasion Day, and you see it on social media. I don't get into it, but they fight, and I understand why they fight. Australians are proud Australians for the Australian flag. Aboriginal people are proud Aboriginal people for the Aboriginal flag. What do you reckon they're going to come in and say? We're the best. We're the best. And it's just like, you go for Manchester United, I go for Liverpool. Liverpool's the best. No, Manchester United's the best. And guess who? See these two things? They're called knuckles. And on top of that is a head. We're both knuckleheads because for the best interest and outcome of the environment, we're not doing what is right. We're fighting for who is right based on what? Our values. So if you can challenge your values and say, wait a second, let me listen to what Sebastian's saying and extract the information to be a better human being and get more out of my environments, I guarantee you win every single day of life. But most people won't do that because even when you hear it, the dissonance of my grandfather taught me that was rich people wankers.
Yeah.
So now I've got to challenge what my grandfather told me. And guess what? My father told me the same thing, but Sebastian's telling me we're not wankers, bro. And I'm like, you're a wanker, bro, in my head, because the first thought process. So the second part to this really quickly is make sure you challenge every first thought. So if I ask you, Sebastian, would you jump out of an aeroplane for $1 million without a parachute? What's the answer for yourself?
Oh.
No?
No.
Well, that's our first response, right? So what I would say to you is now I'm going to walk you over to the aeroplane, which is across there that we would jump out of. And if you look in there, there's $1 million and all you had to do is jump down onto the runway off the plane that's parked on the runway. Would you now go, oh, shit, I've just missed an opportunity?
Yes.
That's what happens to people in life. We miss an opportunity because we're wired one way to Australian people better know Aboriginal, Liverpool's better, Manchester, and we get caught up fighting and miss the opportunity because we're distracted in division or friction or whatever it is in life. Learn to say, I talk about Donald Trump. Some people love him, some people hate him. Could we learn business of him? Has he made millions and millions of dollars? So if you can say, what's his thought around business and how does he operate? You could possibly plug that into yourself to make a high level of money. Then you go into Andrew Tate. Some women hate him. Oh, this makes this. But hey, has he been successful with an online community? What's he do? How's he speak? What's in his community? So I'll go and learn from these people. And as much as you might say, I don't want to be around that, I can extract and push aside, look, if he wants to have his opinions on, that's his choice. It's not my view on women. But then at some point in time, he might say some great stuff about how we should protect women. You're not strong enough to protect women. And he might use a term that people get upset by. But the reality is, if I look at it, I had to cut the bullshit. And you know what? I am a term. I won't use the term to my own self. I'm not a man. I could be a stronger man. That if someone does come along and try and do something bad to my woman, I could stand up and be that person. And his word would be, don't be a P. And people get offended by that, right? Rather than saying what he means is, are you strong enough to protect your woman? That's how I'd
Yeah.
extract that. And am I? No, I'm not. Let's go do some MMA, BJJ. How to disarm somebody as best we can. Why? Because the reality of the world is we just don't know what's coming around the corner. We've just had a incident where a bloke walked up in a store, escaped from a mental home, and just attacked these people. And unfortunately, two of them didn't survive. So, even that spatial awareness, who's in your space, who's coming towards me, what have they got in their hand, those particular things in this world. You don't have to be. I heard a ex-CIA/FBI agents talk about this. It's the awareness. It's summer and a bloke's wearing a big coat with a big lump in their coat, but we'll walk past and go, it looks weird, but don't worry about it. Next thing you're shot in the back. It's just being totally aware of every single situation that you step into without having to be hyper vigilant and anxious and fearful, but just saying I'm conscious of my surroundings. And once you do that, you step into the greatest version of yourself, because every single day is lived with intentions like you've spoken about, rather than just I'm going to guess my way through the world. No one hopes in business. Don't do it in your life either. And watch what happens in your life when you become very intentional. It becomes very directional.
Yeah, love that. And coming slightly back to when you were talking about indigenous versus like immigrants, if you like, or the Australians, however you want to call them.
It's those that have been born here.
What's that?
It's those that have been born here, because they're fighting. They're saying this is our country as much as it is yours, and I understand it. Totally understand it. I'm a proud Aboriginal man, but at the same time, I know that they're going to fight for their flag. Why would I argue with that? We're crazy. But what will happen, because of pride in our flags, we're going to argue. It's not, and is that the environment, the circle again, that I want to step into? No, thank you.
Yeah.
Stress, heartache, pain, suffering, division, hatred, anger, resentment, envy, jealousy. You can gladly have that. I'll be over here while you're all arguing.
I found what is a real superpower is to be flexible in your mind when it comes to also use words, because sometimes you have opposing views because different words are used, and therefore it sounds like there's a conflict, when really these words mean the same things if you go just relax yourself a little bit. And people who look for really the pure right or wrong, I think that's really difficult, because that depends on the point of view, it depends on the timing and all the rest of it. Because really, as you said, like some authors have some things that I don't support. In fact, I read I read a lot of biographies, and so I highly recommend it, because they are, and you see people's life and you say, oh, this is really, I admire this, or I want to be like that. George Washington, for example, was someone who was not so good with money and was managing his estate. Well, okay, so I don't look at that particularly, I want to pick up on that.
Absolutely.
Was it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. So you pick up on what you believe is value for you, and you learn about that. That doesn't mean that I shouldn't study him just because he's not perfect, And so when it comes to conflict out of those things, I wonder, what's your vision for Australia? A big question, and but especially this topic of Aborigines versus other Australians, if you want to call them. And what do you think could be a way forward, or what would be ideal? Like what's your dream?
It's definitely unity and community. I always say that, and that just doesn't end in Australia. You look at the world right now. This religion, right? That religion, no, my religion, my choice, no, my choice. In this country, no, my country. It is just insane. We're all fighting over, and there's a deep story behind all of it. But in general, like, everyone's fighting for what? Their values. So you're going to respond from your triggers. So if your value is you go for Manchester United, I'll give you a simple one. I go for Liverpool, mate. We've got the best team this year. Mate, are you joking? We're on top of the ladder and you're fourth. You don't open your mouth. Oh, mate, you've been lucky. And now we're arguing from values, right? Which triggers us. And if I say something about Aboriginal people, it triggers me until the trigger doesn't become a trigger, which means you have the highest level of emotional intelligence. And I say, Sebastian, how do you feel if you were Australian that you came to that conclusion? Oh, well, one time, I was at a pub and this Aboriginal bloke come up and punched me in the face because he was drunk, and they're all drunks and they're all violent. No,
Yeah.
we're not all drunk. We're not all violent. Talk about Muslim people. The first thought process, going back to that airplane thing, when we talk about a Muslim person, we go, people have this judgment on a Muslim person. I've sat with Muslim people in jail, outside of jail, and beautiful people. There's going to be people who make choices that are under a race, a religion, a choice that means that person was made a bad choice, and at that point of time might have been uneducated to make a choice and became a byproduct of the environment that then became an extremist, a point of view or whatever it is. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying sometimes that's what happens. But it doesn't mean all Muslims or all Aboriginal people or all Europeans or Germans. When I hear about Germans, it's like, oh, they're very, what's the term I always hear? Like, they say you're very, not strict. What do they always say? They say you're very disciplined. Yeah, yeah, uptight.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
I said,
yeah.
well, our people create quality. You drive BMW, you drive, and I go through the cars. And I say, we're really of a high standard. That's why we want that high standard. Yeah? And that's what I've learned off German people. But that's my perception versus the next German people. They're they're really uptight. And you got to think about the background of that. They've come from the war. They've come from this, which has been passed on to the next generation. And as we know now, 7 strands of DNA carry that past experience, which, obviously the war from back then, no doubt it's been passed on in their DNA. So they're
100%.
wary. And is it going to start again? We're going to catastrophize things, but they're now coming, and then you look at the clothes we wear, German people, because I lived in Austria for a period of time and went into Germany quite a lot. And the clothes we wear, the weather, the snow in and among, like these things, they're factors that contribute to how people act or conduct themselves. And I think that's what people just don't realize. We will fight from value, and that value then becomes a trigger, and then we behave a specific way. I call it the volcano of feelings. And if I hit your feelings the wrong way, Sebastian, you explode into behaviors. Stuff you, Jeff, you Aboriginal people are all the same, right? And it came from anger. It came from not knowing how to emotionally regulate yourself, to hear things from a level that you can respond to on an emotional intelligence level. So why did you think that Aboriginal people of that nature, oh, would that one time in the pub? So have you met any other Aboriginals? And they'll be like, no. I said, would you like to come and come out to, there's a camp going on, come with me. And they go, I'd go with you anytime, Jeff. And I go, all right, let's come out. And then they sit around and they go, wow, Aboriginal people are actually beautiful people. So it's just a perception based from an experience that creates an emotion and a feeling that then becomes a behavior. So you see an Aboriginal person, you had a bad experience, you're like, all right, this person, be careful, he might hit me. They're all drunks, this, that, and the other. If you come with me, you're like, oh, Aboriginal, I know Jeff, do you know Joe? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I went on a camp with him, and I respect culture, the yarning circle, your totems, your tribe names, etc. It's a totally different experience. Learn that to challenge your values, and it's very hard to do. It's very hard to do. Yeah. Tony Robbins has done it. People of that nature have done it. That's the highest level of emotional intelligence, to say how I'm wired and built from people of past experience, my people, my parents, my grandparents, our family, whatever it is, and say, how could I extract this information so I can make this environment what my parents taught me? Be respectful, be loving, be that. And I hate anyone in the world. And even if someone does, a bad act somewhere in the world, I'm not going to then judge people and be that anger. Oh, I've got anger towards these type of people because. How do you do business like that? It's impossible. The happiest CEO in the world doesn't sit and worry about other people's opinions, doesn't worry about external factors. You can't control. Just to be clear, do you control the weather, Sebastian? Anybody out there control the weather? That's an external. Do you control your family and friends? You don't, and you can try. Even partners in coercive relationships can try, right? And they will in some way, shape, or form. But the person has autonomy to how they eat, how they go to the toilet, what time they sleep, something of
Yeah.
that nature, right? So it's really about saying, I've got to stop blaming the external and start to focus on the internal. What do I think of Muslim people that? Why do Australians and non-Aboriginal people fight that? You've got to understand yourself and what that first response is. And does it truly serve the happiest CEO to the life you truly want? And I always say the greatest business you ever have is yourself. The greatest investment you ever make is the time you put into yourself. So if we can say, what's the happiest CEO of my life look like, and I'm the CEO of it, then I can start to say, do I want stress? Hey, Sebastian, you Germans are all the same. I'm already coming in with anger. Why do you think that? Can I ask you why you think that? Oh, well, when I went to the World Cup soccer, you were all drunks and louts and beer went all over me. And I'm like, oh, have you been to Germany? No, I haven't. Yeah, why would I? They'll all spill beer on me. Get out of that value determination that you put into a sum in your head that becomes your reality and keeps you stuck in the emotions of that circle. Stress, heartache, anger, pain. Are you dating that person, Sebastian? I doubt it. None of us, but now we are it and we're dating ourselves at that level. Don't be that person to yourself. You'll mess up your life.
You really do. Yeah.
Like literally.
And it, to your earlier point where you were saying, look, you still keep learning, you're still working on yourself and will do all your life. I mean, that's the attitude I think that people also have towards their life. Because a misperception that I guess I would have had it is that, there's a learning phase. When you're a child, you learn. When you're a teenager, you learn, and you do like a trade or you go to university or whatever you do, and then you're sort of done. And
crazy,
the reality is, I mean, try that. In this world nowadays, you can't really do that because, like online stuff, changes within, I don't know, like a month you have, it has already changed. So you can't do that anyway. But if you really want to thrive, you have to refine because your environment does change. And as you said, like you can't change your environment, but you can change of how you respond to it. And I certainly, I have some topics that I'm sure I need to still work on or haven't worked as deeply on for whatever reason. But I know that, when I do, you have to question yourself. It's like, where am I actually coming from? Why are my values so strong and not serving me, or do they serve me, and so on? And I think it's a great mindset to just know that you always have to work on yourself. And the saying, it's a German saying, I don't know if it exactly goes in English like that, but basically, the journey is the destination. Like you're never done. You think you're done, there's something new again in the next level. And I think that makes life also interesting. It's like nature. Nature doesn't stop growing.
It's magic. I think people just got to realize that, understanding that life is what you make it. And if you make it filled with your circle filled with words of a nature you don't want, how do you remove those words and replace those words, even though because that's your narrative. And it's like, Germans are the best. And I'm like, no, Australians are the best. And you're like, no, Germans. We're fighting over something that just is irrelevant. Where's the score going to matter? Is it going to better your life? Are you going to be the happiest CEO of your life? Are you going to be financially free? Did you find peace? By arguing a point that just was irrelevant. And I think if people understand that conversation at its highest level, you'll get to a point where you're never arguing on value. You're conversating of the happiest CEO. And I love that term, to me, go out and be that. Like it's even made me realize what's the happiest CEO? And I've never asked myself, what's the happiest version of myself look like? But what's the happiest CEO in this world look like?
Yeah.
If you could have the ultimate business, you're financially free, profits every month, happy workforce, no sick days. We're doing recovery sessions in the sauna, hyperbaric, whatever, right? So even for our staff, they're like, hey, you should build a center because I know I would build that. Yeah. I would build egg pods and I'd say you need to go in and sleep 20 minutes every single day. If you don't do it, I won't pay you for that time frame.
Yeah,
And then
wow.
before work every day or after work or at lunch, work out. I'll pay you for that too. Like, I guarantee my staff would be at the highest level of happiness and fulfillment. And then what I want you to do, anyone that's got kids, make sure you finish and you're not in the workplace to go and pick your kids up from school so
Yeah,
that you actually connect with your kids. And if you, I don't know how I do this, but prove that you spend an hour with your kids kicking a football, soccer ball, whatever it is overseas that they play, the girls play, doing something, right? And maybe you're playing Barbie dolls with your
yeah.
girls,
Trevor?
and you can prove I'll pay you for that too. Why? Because I know you're going to be the happiest CEO of
Yeah,
your
yeah,
own
yeah,
life. And when you come to the workplace, you're going to be like, hey, Sebastian, look at these ideas. Guess how much more profit we're making? How good is this? And at the end of the year, to me, I've been able to invest back in staff and say, I've had staff say, hey, Jeff, you paid us the Christmas period, but I don't know what you did, but you made a big mistake and you've paid me a lot of money. And I think the thing might have went to the wrong person. I said, nah, it went to the right person. We made a profit of this much this year, and that money went back into yourself. And I'm very transparent on that. And
yeah,
it means that they're operating going, wow, he recognized that we helped him get to there, rather than me say, give me the money, you work for me and slave for me. I'm going to drive the Ferrari, you drive the everyday car and froth over my car, and I'm just going to tell you what to do. To me, they're all family, and if we can do that, I become the happiest CEO, but they become the happiest CEO to their life, and they're
yeah.
part of that journey. And together, there's more unity and community. Priceless, man.
I'm blown away how well you understand how this title came about, because of course it's not for CEOs as such, but it's like you are in charge of your own life, and if you acknowledge that, then you treat it that way and say, well, it's up to me. And yeah, and I love, by the way, paying people to go to the gym. It's a great idea,
Priceless.
all of it, because if your mind and your body is not firing on all cylinders, how can you then do a particularly good job? And I found, if I want to derail myself, I mean, sleep would be number one, just like don't sleep much, and a couple of other things, worry, lots of worry, and just really focus on the wrong things. My performance and my happiness in life is just so low. It's like, why would I do that? Like, the feedback is so quick, short with your kids.
Crazy.
Wife is annoyed by you because you say the wrong things. It's really like, get the foundation right so that you really can be that happy CEO.
Love that. You respond, not react. And you react when you don't unpack what I call your invisible backpack. So we all wear one, but then I've got one on now. And stress of work, stress of life, stress financially, and that's just on some levels. Then that stress builds up into anger, resentment towards people, government, my workplace, whatever it is. Now I'm driving to work and someone cuts me off. Now I'm reactive. You
Good one.
effing idiot! I'm gonna, you're lucky. This, that, like that. That shouldn't be life. That's not the happiest CEO of life. And when you look at, you look at that term, it's a great book title too. I don't know if anyone's ever got that, but I'd say trademark that and get that name and
All
write
right.
that book. But and especially going down the path where you've gone down, it's so important for people to pause. And if you're not doing this, my group today, I had them this morning before this podcast. And one of the things we do is have a weekly planner. And that weekly planner means they have a GPS to life, which next week from A, which is say Sunday 12 a.m. to the next following Sunday 12 a.m., they have a GPS, a clear direction, total clarity around the intentions of their life. Here's what I need to do, X, Y, and Z. That's important to me. That creates the peace, happiness, success, fulfillment, contentment, the words that you want in your life, right? Because if you don't, hope isn't that strategy that brings those things. And hope's going to bring you heartache, pain, suffering, PTSD, trauma, depression. And now you become that label. Oh, I've got trauma, I've got depression, I've got what. I'm not saying that you don't feel a specific way, but I also say that you don't have to carry that every single day. So that means, all right, what is that moment? Bring it out of the visible backpack. I call it X marks the spot. That made you feel a specific way. Going back to that negative and positive fear loop, what was the feelings attached to it? What was the emotions attached to it? What action happened then? So someone cheated on me, didn't feel good enough. Uh, 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 Emotions were, I feel sad now. The action is I'm going to binge eat because I'm not pretty enough. The reaction is that next time Sebastian asks me to, hey, I'm getting married, I want you to come to the, because I'm feeling overweight, I don't want to get photographed, I don't want to see the old crew. Oh, sorry, mate, I've got something on that date. You're isolating in the bedroom, continuing your binge eating. Now you're overweight, you've got health issues, and there's a knock-on effect. You've got to rewrite that story, feelings, emotions, action, reaction, same thing in that circle, but do it in a positive light. So it's negative fear loop versus positive fear loop. And when you understand that, you write that out, you actually see your GPS. Turn left here in 100 meters to success. Go straight now to commitment. Turn right at discipline. And once you do that, that's intentional. And you become the happiest CEO of your life. And the greatest version of that is when other people tell you that. So last year, Sebastian, I had 13 people tell me that, can I tell you something? I'm in a shop. And I'll go, yeah, go for gold. And they're like, I just feel I need to tell you this. Like, you're one of the happiest, calmest, most successful looking versions of a human. So I'd ask them, what made you say that? And they'd say, how you dress, how you conduct yourself, your body, your tone, your voice, your projection, these things. And they're not me saying, hey, Sebastian, I'm the most, peaceful person or whatever. They were coming out with these terms. Like, mate, can I just say you the most well-rounded human I've ever met? I had an old lady turn around and she said, do you know that you're like, I don't know if you know, but you've got this aura and it's this charisma and it's the way you conduct yourself. Mind you, I was stretching in the line because I've had 3 knee reconstruction from football and I'm bent over showing my butt to her the whole time. So, but she did, she goes, the way you conducted yourself, and this lady was short 5 cents or something and she was trying to, I said, listen, I'll just tap for her, move out of the way. And and the way I did it and so forth. And I think it's how you treat people, comes from how you treat yourself. So if you love yourself, you'll love others. If you hate yourself, and I see you wearing that top, and I'm like, oh, I wish I had Sebastian's top today. I should have a beard. He thinks he's better than me. Like, you're looking for what you're looking for, your reticular activating system, your RAS. We play this game in Australia. It's called Spotto, Spot the Yellow Car. I don't know if you played in Europe. And it's like, wow, there's so many yellow cars on the road. That's because your RAS has been taught, look for yellow. Now, if I do this you can do it with yourself, right? And I say to everybody, all right, look for a minute, everything you can count of 20 seconds. Find everything black that you can in this room. Person who gets the most wins $100. I guarantee everyone's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They're looking at all black. Now, when it finishes, I say, all right, so how many white things did you see? And they are, what? And I'm like, the black things were the negative things, the white things are the positive things. They go, I saw none, I was looking for black. And I'm like, that's what happens in life. Your reticular activating system is looking for fear, anxiety, stress, heartache, pain, all of the labels that you plugged into yourself. And guess what you're going to be every single day? You're going to find the fear, the anxiety, the stress, the heartache, the pain. Stuff this life, everyone sucks. And what do you reckon the world will be? You'll be the unhappiest CEO of your life. So determine what the unhappiest looks like, even if it's you now, and determine what the happiest CEO looks like, and then practice that every single day through your weekly planner so that you've got direction, intention through a GPS. And I guarantee by the end of a month of doing that, you start to go, shit, you know what? I'm really starting to flip my life. And this is something I'm committed to now. And get in that habit of following through, finishing things, not missing your alarms. I know it seems simple. You see the one about discipline of making your bed. Same thing, you hit the alarm. It's not just about, it's about the discipline of being able to follow through with what you say. My word is my bond. Behind that is what? Integrity, discipline, accountability, responsibility, ownership. These words that if you hit that snooze alarm, guess what you do? You don't even trust yourself because you lied to yourself. So if I lie to you, Sebastian, and I say, yeah, I'm going to be there at 9 o'clock and I show up at 9:30 each time, you're going to, whether we're best friends or not, you're like, this bloke is never on time. And it creates some form of friction, right, in some way, shape or form. And all of a sudden, your opinion of me is, oh, this bloke, does he really respect me? Does he value me? And we break that confidence. You're doing that when you hit that alarm every single day. And then guess what happens when we say, I've got this business idea, or your wife says, I'm going to sing this song, but she knows she's hitting this alarm. She doesn't believe in herself. And when she starts singing, now she sees Beyonce or whoever it is that she looks up to, some singer, sing at the top of the voice. And she's like, I'll never be that, because she's looked for the lack of confidence that she got from not standing true to that alarm clock. And I know it sounds stupid, but your brain doesn't know the difference when it says you lack confidence, and it came from what? It came from the alarm. So when she goes to sing, and she's not a world-class singer just yet, but she could be, she's reflecting back to who she was, and guess who she was? I didn't show up for myself there, and now I don't believe in myself here. And what will happen is she'll go, and the voice will come out, not her truest form, because people are going to judge me and compare me to Beyonce, and I'm not that good. And I guarantee you don't have to say anything. Your actions or your voice or your those feelings, emotions, actions, beliefs, behaviors, thoughts, are all going to be present in how you're built. And you can say, I'm confident, but you're not going to just ooze confidence on that stage where she's on there, she's singing, she's dancing, and Sebastian's like, oh my God, my wife right now, like, get off the stage. Like, because that's the confidence that, and I mean it nicely, the guy's like, yeah, what a great singer.
Mm-hmm.
Now she's like, I'm singing, and someone in the audience is, guess what? A Sony artist, person who signs an artist on holidays in Germany, and goes, oh my God, I'm signing this woman straight away, because she's a woman of strength. She's taken that power. She didn't hit the alarm clock. She shows up to her children, her husband, and now she has that confidence to ooze that confidence on stage. And we've got to do that as human beings. So we're the happiest CEO. We've got to ooze that every single day. Otherwise, you can't. You can pretend it, but people see right through it at the point in time when things get gritty.
Yeah. And there is this magic happening. I'm sure you have seen it, where you sort of get to the next level of your mindset, your emotional sort of like state, and you like feel a particular way. You feel like, look, let's talk about this confidence. I really have this confidence. I know I'm there for me. I have the integrity, and, I treat everything with integrity. And somehow life responds to this. Sometimes you can't logically explain how opportunities and connections come along, or the next book that you read is like, wow, this really changed my life again. But there is this magic, and I found that always really encouraging, and like to share that also with people that's like, how do you get where you are? And, like, how did ever Jeffrey get to that when he came from there? But the reality is, like, because you got to work on yourself. You really do. Yeah. But this magic, have you thought about sort of that spiritual component of that? Because to me, it's more of the same. Luckily nowadays, more and more science can back stuff up. Like you said, like with the DNA, like you go generations down. Back in the days, it was all probably called spiritual stuff, and not really real. But like, what's your framework around that? Because I found it helpful to start looking into that as well nowadays.
Rather, like, even we talked about challenging your narrative and your story. When you talk about spiritual stuff, woo-woo, it's all woo-woo. I'll give you a great example. Why is it woo-woo? Because we can't see it. Everyone agree? Like, connect to the spirits, right? People are like, oh, what a load of crap. But then we'll believe in Wi-Fi, which we can't see. Everyone's like, oh, my phone's not working. I need to move it. And Wi-Fi exists here somewhere, so I'm going to move until I find it. You will not find spirituality until you actually connect to it, which means you got to turn on your router or whatever it is to connect to that Wi-Fi of that spirituality moment. We use 7 principles, and I call it 7 by 7. So these 7 things
Yeah.
I put into one for each day, and I work on the one that's I'm not strong at. That's on my Monday, and then I build into. And when I say I'm not strong at, I wouldn't say I'm not strong at. The one I want to strengthen most goes into Monday. Why? Because I'm speaking that into power existence, not lack. The one I'm not strong at. So I'm putting myself down. I wouldn't do that, right? But I explain that on this podcast. So, and you can write these down emotionally, spiritually, culturally, physically, psychologically, financially, and educationally. I can't believe it. Because I still like those reset, man, you always go through it. And I've got to do it like this. So I'm actually, that's financially educated. And you'll do one on each day. So one thing around, say, educationally, and you're reading that book as an example. It might be a podcast to someone else. It might be standing with someone and saying, hey, you're in business. How do you start, Sebastian? Simple question. You've learned one form of education on Monday that you didn't have, that now becomes a part of your DNA. Second one, let's say emotionally I react to everything. Let's learn about emotional regulation. Where does that stem from? And maybe watch a TEDx talk, emotional regulation. So, just to be clear, if you go on YouTube, there's 7 to 14 minutes, and they're blokes like Sebastian or whoever it is that have done many, many years in a field where they might have 40 years worth of study how to sleep better. As a great example, there's a great podcast. I think it's 14 minutes. And his 40 years of study, I've plugged every one of those recommendations into my life. And I sleep unbelievable, right? Phone outside the bedroom, no TV, darkness, etc., etc. 5 hours or less of sleep, based on this information, means that you decrease your immune system by 75%. So you can grab this and plug it straight into yourself on these 7 principles, and I plug them into 7 days. So that's your 7 by 7. And that means that you've got real solid foundation around these things. And one of the hardest ones is spirituality. Yeah. And when people do things where we're saying, oh, you got to connect to the spirits, and people are like, oh man, get out of here. As Aboriginal people, we have what's called dream time stories. So they're from out of this context, but the stories all have, even the rivers, as an example, were made by the serpent snake, and the serpent snake had a story behind it. And once you sit and learn, they're all the values and principles of life. All our stories, I sit there and go, wow, we're actually really smart. We learn how to turn the environments into stories that protected our values. And once we understand that, now you've got some really high substance level of operation. And every single day, that spirituality, I can't tell you, it's very hard to connect to when you don't allow yourself to do that. So breath work, even sitting in the sauna, people have thoughts, but they will never challenge the thoughts. Oh, why am I thinking about life isn't good, or I can't do that, money isn't everything? You'll never challenge it. People go, that's who I it's just life. Life will be life. And no, it won't be. As long as you accept it, you aren't designing it, and therefore you'll just be it. And to do that, one of the hardest things to do, I reckon, on this planet is to connect to yourself on a spirituality level. So if you're doing breath work and you're connecting to then you are at the deepest form of, because you've let go of what sits you within here. And if you haven't, then you haven't spiritually unpacked what's not spiritually yours. Sebastian said, I'm not good enough. The judge told me I'll never make it to 18. If I don't unpack that, I'll spiritually always have a soul that says that I'm confident and I can be anything I want, but I always carry the judge's comments. And as long as you do that, you can project it, put the bank robber mask on, oh, I'm confident, I'll do anything. But then, the judge's comments will ring in my ear, and the level of that voice is, oh, yeah, I could do it, Sebastian. If you give me a go, I'll try. No, Sebastian, you give me that to me, it's done. When do you need it by? Tomorrow afternoon? I'll see you then. Even if it's not the field that I work in, I'm going to find a way, because I'm walking out to the Coliseum and the line's there. Guess who gets done today? The lion, not me. And people will say, oh, mate, you're not going to fight a lion and all of the above. That's the mentality of lack. What, do you just walk out and say, eat me? Or do you put up a fight and do something about it? And if so, what's the fight? And the fight is the solution to the problem. The lion's the problem. The fight is what's the solution to it. I'm going to rip the lion's eyes out as soon as it grabs me in its mouth. I'm just going to stick and I might get bitten. I might survive it, might not. But guess what? I'm going down with every bit of a fight. And if we have that much fight in our life for the happiest CEO of our life, I guarantee life's going to work out really well for yourselves.
Love it. Hey, we have some quick fire questions that we normally do at the end of a podcast, and I'm really grateful for all the time you spent with us, because these insights are amazing. And I actually haven't read your book, but it's definitely now on my radar.
Yes, it'll come out this year. So, and we'll do a big promo, and people will be able to get to that. And
awesome, love it. Yeah, no, I think it's so valuable. And gee, you really you've had quite a journey, and it's inspiring, and it excites me that this knowledge is out there, and you're promoting it so broadly, because it really is an opportunity for anyone could do that. It's not something that is just for privileged ones that stumbled somehow on a little bit of advice and ignited them. And so, talking about advice, what would you say is sort of like the best advice that you have received? And I'm sure you have received a lot, but what would come to mind today?
Probably, my grandmother taught me something when I was young. She was a huge influence on my life, and we're sitting at the top of Everly Street. We lived at 88, so I could have said it was a bad time. I looked at everything. Every lesson was a blessing. 88 is infinity, the 2 8. Yeah. So I was like, add another one, and I'm a bundle of wealth, and I'm gonna be the third 8. But what she taught me, we were sitting there, and she had emphysema, and I just I looked across, and she goes, "Are you all right, son?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm all right." And she goes, "Don't be the man sort of thing. I can see it in you, son." And I said, "Oh, well, you're leaving this planet, and you've taught me so much, and I feel helpless. I can't do nothing about it." She goes, "Son, let me tell you something. I've passed on every bit of knowledge I possibly could to you, and you're going to pass that on to other people. And through that knowledge, my spirit will forever walk this planet." So if you understand that, and you have that legacy, it's not about, I'm going to leave this legacy so Sebastian thinks I'm the best and coolest dude on this planet. I'm doing it because I'm the happiest CEO of my life based around how I wanted to live my life. And through that, what you don't gatekeep and pass on to other people, which means I give you everything. Here, have it all, Sebastian. It goes on to your 5 kids and your wife, and maybe your wife will be that world-class singer that we all sit and go, "Oh my God, what a great singer." And then her husband, Sebastian, I'm like, "Oh my God, that's Sebastian's wife." And because of you, I learned this, and I passed it on to her, and it broke her lack of confidence and put her into confidence from lack to abundance. That's why, for me, probably the biggest lesson I've ever learned off my grandmother. Your knowledge becomes power. But one thing I stacked on that, and I learned from that, was knowledge isn't power without application. So as much as we've passed on today, and you spoke about sometimes you got to get out of it, some people go, criminal, what am I going to learn off a criminal? Those that have stuck around, no doubt you've learned plenty today. Be able to extract that information and use my grandmother's teachings of that knowledge will forever walk this planet through the people we pass that on. And it's the greatest lesson I've ever learned probably in my whole journey of life.
Love it. How do you start your day? Do you have a particular routine you follow every day, or do you mix it up?
I got to one thing. Our body, our lives love comfort, but so I do all the standard stuff in general. But I do like 100 workout every single day. And I started in jail, and it was 100 push-ups. Then I'd get up. It was a 500 workout, but it was 100 workouts. So you do 100 of each thing. So 100 squats, 100 push-ups, 100 you shadow box. Why? Because when the cell door opened, you never knew what was coming through that door. So I was warmed up before they came through. And that 100 workout I still do to this day. And people go, you can do 100 push-ups easy, straight, right? What are you doing? It's the discipline. It's the accountability. It's the responsibility to my quality of life. It's the ownership of who I say I am. It's the integrity of my word being my bond, if that makes sense. So I have those little things, and I go through pretty much, most of the stuff that a lot of people do. One thing I would say is don't spend, for me, I learned about saunas and the highest level of what I can get a great result out of in a short period of time. Do that. Read one page of a book if you can't read 10. Read 10. Listen to Audible while you're on the train. People blow me away. I don't have time. How much time? Where do you work? Oh, in town. How long does it take to get? An hour and a half. Hour and a half. Do you listen to podcasts? And they go, oh, where do I do that? I go, so how long have you been working there for? And they go, 5 years. I go, so for an hour and a half, an hour and a half back, you haven't listened to anything. They go, no, I sleep. I'm like, oh. Yeah, and yeah, you can see why. And I mean that nicely. I'm just like, you got to find these little routine or things that make you who you are. But one thing I do in all of that is the discipline of that day of rolling out and doing different things. And then one thing I do every single morning is make sure I've already got my to-do list from the brain dump the night before, and that becomes a non-negotiable. Don't. If 8 to 9 is my training time, you will not contact me. I don't care if it's my kids are on. I'm on Do Not Disturb. My kids are in there, or people that ring me. If it's absolutely urgent, if they ring, I know it's urgent. If not, everyone else gets blocked out. We don't do that enough. Oh, hey, John, yeah. And then you're sitting on the phone in the gym for half an hour and you miss your workout. Don't do that. I'd say that to everybody. Add the 100 workout if you want, and by all means, just do some body weight stuff. And it's a good way to kickstart your blood flow every morning. It's a good way to stay disciplined to yourself every morning. And it's just a simple thing. And I usually get straight out of bed and get straight into it. And that's just how you start your day on a real high. And just learn those things. If you aren't working out at the moment, maybe aim for like 5 reps of squats, 5 crunches, 5 tricep dips in your homes, those sorts of things. Push-ups off your knee. Do 1 today and aim for 2 next week. Those sorts of little small incremental changes. But that 100 workout, it's just don't think of it as just a workout. It's the discipline, accountability. Find your own words for it and then plug that in, and that becomes a part of your DNA. And if you're responsible to you, you'll be responsible to your business, your partner, your life, your kids, your grandkids, whatever it is. And I guarantee life will be so much better for you.
Yeah. Thinking about early gym routine, you have to stack the odds in your favor. And I remember one of those hacks and habits is like, some people actually say, look, if you find it all too hard to get into that flow easily because there's so many steps in between you and the gym, sleep in your gym wear, put your runners right next to the bed and just be ready. And it's like, this is true for many things, but it's a small example. It's like, man, this is genius. Yeah, just take the friction away, eh?
And I'd say that to everybody. Make like that. That's what I do every morning. These small 1%ers. I call them 0.1 percenters.
Yeah.
And it's just like listening. I've got a speaker in my shower, a waterproof speaker. So I turn on a podcast every single morning, and I have the shower because I'm already having a shower. Then I stretch in the shower. Don't stretch if there's all soap on the ground, and just be careful. Don't go doing one-legged squats and end up through the glass or something. Like, I got that in the thing. So, and then I'm stretching at the same time while I'm washing myself. So maybe my calves, which then translate into my hamstrings, into my lower back. And I've got lower back pain. Why not stretch your calves? Grab your quad, stretch your quad. These sorts of things that you can stack, as you suggested, Sebastian, very important that you don't just turn on the coffee. Most people turn on the coffee and wait the jug and wait there for their coffee. Do squats until it boils. And don't stop. So you might go 28 squats, 2 squats between the first. 2 years later, you're at 28 squats. 10 years later, you're at 56 squats. Yes. And that's those small incremental efforts, and their daily deposits become huge impacts of your life. That little rock that goes into the bomb becomes a big wave that ultimately becomes the tsunami of the life that you truly want. And that tsunami of the happiest CEO coming over and splashing down into your life creates the life you truly want.
Love it. It's not a race. It's a marathon, I always say as well. And it's like it's consistency in these types of things. Just amazing.
You mentioned one thing really quickly, friction. Take away all the friction. So if you have to, not even joking, sleep in your workout clothes. Get up, do the 100 workout quickly, like get the blood flowing. Run on the spot for a minute if you want to get your blood flowing because you couldn't be bothered at the gym. I guarantee do it for 1 minute, even box like this, 1 minute. Yeah. And by the end of your blood's flowing, you're like, I'm going to the gym. And for me in the gym, a great example of this friction. People say, I don't have time for cardio, I don't have time for stretching, I don't have time for my core work. I'll do a set, say squats, then I'll stretch in between set. I'll do the next set of squats. I'll then skip at the next one for 60 seconds. I'll do the next set. Then I'll do, let's say, the ab wheel or crunches, some form of core work. Now I've combined those. Then I'm listening to a podcast. People go, what music do you listen to? I bet you listen to like Tupac or something like that, right? Coming from your past. I'm like, no, I'm listening to Tony Robbins or Myron Golden or something, like someone of value.
Myron, I haven't listened to him for way.
Yeah,
great.
and guess what I've got? I've got my notes open. So as soon as they say something, I pause that and I say that I'm going to implement into my life, but this is how I'm going to do that. I'm going to do their way, but now I'm going to add what I call a layered approach. So I want to add one more part to that so it becomes substance in my life, and it takes away friction in your life. Create that, I call it, obviously there's habit stacking, but I call it habit cross stacking. What is the value of that habit? It causes me to be more determined, disciplined, consistency, accountability, whatever words you bring up from that. And now you've got real substance as to why you're taking that. What's the purpose behind it? What's your vision behind it? Now create the mission on it, and I guarantee life will be totally different for yourself every single day.
I'm with you, brother. That's amazing. I so relate to this particular mindset. And you've mentioned quite a few times that you read and listen to audiobooks, which is another quick question that we normally have. And by the way, I'm blown away when you ask. Sometimes you ask a person, "Oh, what book are you reading?" I'm like, "Well, none." And then you ask, "Oh, how many books have you read this year?" And it's like, "Well, actually, I haven't." And sure, your education comes from all sorts from many different directions. But to me, it's such a gift because nowadays books are either for free or they're not really expensive. You can, as you said, you can listen to it, on the train, even while you drive. You can listen to it. That's certainly my way of absorbing it.
Yes.
Taking notes. What's one of the books that you that stood out for you? I know there's so many good books, so it's quite a big question, but like a couple of influential ones that you say, like, these are my go-tos. I always recommend these subjects.
Yeah, I take you back to something you said. Sometimes we'll read a book and it won't land at that point in time. You come back in life and you're, oh my God, that changed my life. And there was a sequence last year I went through, and it was almost like I learned this, and then I went to this next conference, and it stacked on top of that, and then it went like this. And the book I was reading, and I was like, oh wow, I'm so aligned with who I am.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I'll read that book and I say, it's all right. And it's like right now I'm reading Alex Hormozi's book.
Great.
And going through that on a marketing level. And some bits of it, I'm like, wow, did he make 100 million out of this? But I challenge myself then. Why am I thinking like this? This bloke's a beast in marketing. Like, you better reframe your mind on this. What's he telling you in this book that you're missing or you're not feeling? And sometimes, whether it's the way it's written or something of that nature, very important. I learned one of the things that changed me. But I'd learn a lot of education in jail. I used to do education in jail to get parole. To be honest with you, I was like, I'm going to get out the first chance and rob more banks, right? So to do that, I needed to educate myself. I'm doing education. I did all the courses in jail. I'm better. Let me out.
Yeah.
But it organically changed me. And I remember walking out and the bloke goes, mate, do you want to do a university degree here? And I said, what, here in jail? And he goes, yeah, I just came out of Segro. So I was in that slot for 6 months, no TV, no nothing. I see this bloke go, what do you got available? Give me a look. And the rest was history. But he gave me this book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey. And I started to go, what are your, like, same, what are you, we have, Aboriginal people have 7 sisters. The sky has these 7 stars that we use as a guide. That was our map back in the day. As long as we saw those stars, we know what direction we were walking and where we're heading to. Here's where, we need to move because of the season, and we follow the stars at night, especially during summer, so you're not walking in the heat.
Yeah.
And those 7 habits, 7 sisters. Wow. Oh my God. How did they know? I was, so it's an alignment for you. It's very hard. Like, then I read something like Man Up by Bedros Koulian, and it was just like, grab your balls and stop making excuses. And it was like, oh, yeah, that relates to me. But a female might say, oh, that's disgusting, grab your balls. It's the mentality. That was the key message sort of behind it. And he gave some great strategies in that book too. But then someone might say, oh, Mel Robbins, female, the way she puts it, it's so enlightening and so forth. Then I'd read Mel Robbins and I'd say, oh, yeah, I love how she's put that. And I'd do it this way as well. Once again, it's the extraction of the information to then challenge your narrative and say, what could this teach me and how can I understand myself as to why I'm not operating at this level and what will it do when I operate at this level? Find me more peace, happiness, financial freedom, travel more, the partner I want, whatever it is. And, ultimately you're reading these books of the highest value. Akagi, Japanese People, to me, is an example, one of the greatest books about human life. When I read it the second time, I didn't find it as fulfilling as the first time. I was like, how do they live to 100? I want to know. And I'm going to implement it all, and I did. But the second time, I'm like, I reckon I could add to what they're already doing based on the new information and the data and the science and research that's in this modern age. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add layers to what they've already taught us. And off we go.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Here, I just wanted to really quickly touch on something that we talked earlier about as well. It's like the emotional intelligence is something that can derail us, or let's say our emotion can derail us or can really support us. Absolutely. And I found, massively, right? And sort of the history that you sort of described and the path that you described, it's certainly something that, can become an ally. How do you find, what's one of the first steps that people can take to really be even aware of their emotions and how they derail it, and how can they become more intelligent around that?
Write out what affects you. So if someone says something, and write out what it is, and in general, why do we come to that conclusion that is what it is? So even if someone is like, they're doing something clearly that is destructive, you're like, are you joking? And they're like, what's wrong with it? You should be with us on this. I can't believe you're not with us. It's more the ability to be able to say to, look, what I am finding is I'm responding. No, I'm reacting, I should say, reacting from my values. And what I need to learn is how to respond from what is of value. What is the happiest CEO as the example? And when people understand that conversation, someone's trying to ring through, and I did have it on airplane mode, but somehow someone's got through. Yeah, and I'm trying to get the clear message across. And this is, in this whole conversation, the clear message doesn't come across into your brain or your capacity if you're not aware of how you react to something versus how you respond to something. So by writing that out, your brain, there's 5 ways to do this really quickly. To retain the information, I call it retention attention. Write it out. Second one is speak it out silently. So you're manifesting it. I am abundant. You could look in the mirror and you don't have to say something, but I'm saying in my brain, I am abundant. I can do this. Anything is possible, right? And then the next one is speak it out loudly, or so as like proudly to the world, which means, hey, what are your goals for this year? You ask me, I'm telling you, I'm telling social media, let's get at it, this, that, and the other. And you're owning that journey. These 3 things are plugging in. Then you write it out into your weekly planner. Writing it out is like coding a computer tower that has nothing in it. You put Microsoft Word in it, now it operates from that level. But if you try and find Excel and you only got Word in there, you're like, where's Excel? It's stressful, frustrating, etc. You've written that code into your brain to be true. So challenge that narrative and rewrite it by putting in something of personal development. When you're challenged that thought, you have to say, why am I reacting from this place? That is how I'm built as an individual. Is it serving me on an emotional level? Why do I keep, is anger a part of who I date? No, you wouldn't date anger. So why are you doing it to yourself? How to remove anger, how to manage anger, how to see anger, what are anger triggers, what people, environments create these triggers. And most importantly, why do you create those triggers or accept those triggers? And then lastly, practice it until it becomes a habit, and the habit becomes a part of your DNA where discipline, non-negotiables, accountability, those three things form your DNA, are present. So you write those out. What's the discipline of making sure anger is not part of this? What's the non-negotiables? So if Sebastian's always angry, it's not someone I want to be around. It's a non-negotiable. I respect him. He chooses to be that. Wish him all the best. Lastly, accountability to what you say you are and want to be, and practice that until it's a part of your DNA. And I guarantee you'll respond to something. So I might not agree on something that happens in the world. There's a whole heap that I might not agree on right now. But if I go out to the world and I post that on social media, I'm sure that there's others that would agree. And I'm like, are you effing kidding, mate? Keyboard warrior. And for what?
Yeah.
Do I want anger? You want anger? Here, here's the present. I'll give it to you. Like, I'll be over here. Take care.
Love it.
And that's the awareness of what you want and what you don't want in your life.
Yeah. You teach these types of things also in corporate environments, and I would anyone encourage to think about their team. And if you're part of a team and you have a manager that you have to approach, just do it and ask, can we have Jeffrey as a speaker in our workshop with it? It would be so cool, and it would make a better world if people actually start to bring this much more into corporation. And I'm sure you have a lot of experience seeing how that really turns people into happy people, and be in charge of their destination and of their journey through the work life as well as private, because normally it goes hand in hand anyway.
We're global too, so we can come anywhere in the world, we do that currently. And second part to it, you wouldn't travel to work without your favorite music on. So why do you let people come into the work without their favorite music on? What that means is if you just accept them as to how they're built, they're going to react from their past rather than respond from the value of what you're trying to achieve on the mission within that organization.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, if people want to find out more, I know you have a website, which is Jeffrey Morgan. That's spelled JEFFREYMORGAN.com.
Yeah, beautiful legend.
Yeah, thank you. But you're probably also on social media. I know you're definitely on LinkedIn as well. So there are quite a few ways to find you, correct?
Absolutely. The Jeffrey Morgan, THE, Jeffrey Morgan. On all social media platforms. Go across, do a bit of due diligence on the person you'd love to work with in your life, and not just because you heard me, today he sounds good. Have a look at, a year ago, what did I still sound good? And you'll go, wow, this bloke's been very consistent and he's who he says he is. A lot of people these days show you the shiny Lamborghini, but they're not one bit of that operation behind the scenes, and they're definitely not high performance in their life. They're just showing you a version of their life, and that's why this world lacks a lot of trust, because a lot of people are inauthentic. I used to be that when I was a criminal back in the day as a bank robber, telling myself that was authentic and I was good and life was happy. I was the happiest CEO in my life, Sebastian. I believed I had all the girls, money, hotel rooms, beautiful cars. But then the police kicked in the door and I said, it's all part of, part and parcel of this life. Bullshit. I accepted a bullshit version of the narrative that I fed myself, and most people do that. I mean that respectfully to you all, because you got more. You want that book. You want to travel to that location. You want to do X, Y, or Z. And if you've been thinking about it for a long period of time, this is your wake-up call to snap kick you to the moon. That's something I say quite often. And what I mean by that, once you zoom out, you look down on the earth and say, shit, there's so much earth that I haven't lived. And I'm only expect that I shouldn't worry about the judgment of there's so many people in this world. Some are going to like you, some aren't. It's okay. That's their choice. Your choice is to be the happiest CEO in your life each and every day, each and every breath, each and every single second you live this life. Go out and be intentional and directional, and I guarantee if I can do it, you can do anything you set your mind to.
Love it. Jeff, thank you so much. It was a privilege and honor to have you on the show. Really, really awesome, everyone. Jeff Morgan, look him up. I think you can really shift your life by just following him. can't wait until the book is out. I would definitely look out for it and read it. And thank you for all your wisdom and all you do. I really appreciate it.
Matt, it's been a pleasure, and I thank you for being away from your 5 kids and your beautiful wife, no doubt, that you've spent some time with me. And I always be grateful and blessed for those that give you their time, energy, and effort. When you tee off into life or tee off into an environment, remember that circle. Make sure that you respect that space. Big love, people.
Bless you. Wonderful. Thank you so much.